Greetings, everyone. Rev.Hawksblood here, calling from the big island of Hawaii. Now, I'm going to get into a lot of things, people. If you want the truth, stick around. If you don't, please don't hang around. You might not like it. Most people run from the truth, which is a sad thing because I think 90% of the planet don't want to hear the truth. They want to live in the littlest truth that they know, which is absolutely nothing. The government's not giving them any. UFO world's not giving them any. Spiritual leaders are not giving them any. So where do you go? Nowhere. The old saying, go inside yourself, you find the truth, which is true. But without a proper exercise or the right thing to do, you might not ever find it that way either. Simple meditation is not the answer. All right, people? Sitting there praying all day is not the answer. So what I'm going to get into, where we are in the UFO world right now, which is basically nowhere. I'm going to start with Tina, my co-host, is sick again, very sick. Her mother's very sick. She was in the hospital with her mom last week. Her mom is doing not very good. She's been very sick. Just going to explain her situation before I go into the rest of this. She's been abducted when she was little and many other parts of her life. She has the most important UFO story about abduction. She put her book out. Please read it. It's she's going to probably do another part to it, but it's very important to understand what happens in an abduction. You saw a fire in the sky. This is about a person that was abducted. Witnesses, people saw him get taken on a ship and everything else, but he doesn't remember everything. He did a lot of things to try to find it out. He changes his story a little here and there, but he had very little important information for the world. Now, Tina, on the other hand, has a reason why she's alive, a reason why the aliens didn't take her out, and a reason why she is in the position she is in. She's radioactive, people. I made her buy a Geiger counter when we started doing our show 3 years ago. Recently, she bought another one because she wanted to double check and make sure. And when we do a show and she puts it on, it starts beeping, meaning radioactive energy is attacking her and the machine. So, with that being said, her radiation goes up and down. Another impossibility. How come scientists and people, even in the government, aren't concerned about that? They got better things to do? Really? Like what? Tell the world nothing? But in the interim, read her book. I'm sorry she's not here. I was going to let her go into her story a little more again today, but my prayers are for her. Hopefully, she'll be back next week. Things get a little better on her end. I'm doing a lot of garbage, but the show must go on. And in the interim, in the UFO world, they got a UFO conference probably every month somewhere in the United States and around the world. Tina's trying to set up a group of people that are involved with experiencing an abduction. I'm not going to use the word experiencer. That only means one thing, people, and I will never bring them on my show if they say they're an experiencer or deal with them in any level. I'm planning on doing a workshop with a group of people, but I'm not going to use the word experiencers because I don't want those kind of people around me or to be part of anything I do. I've been in this all my life. I've been in this since I was 6 years old, people. And I swear by what I say under God that it's truth, not lies, not stories, not drugs. I've been next to a UFO. I've been next to an alien. I've been next to a Bigfoot. I got involved with filming orbs with a person I worked with for years. I mean, we did a lot of stuff. We put more UFO pictures out within a couple of years than anybody else in the United States ever did. And we shot them all. Not anybody else, not anybody else's story. But during that time in my childhood, I saw many UFOs. I was close to them. One was landed in my yard. I could go on and on about that. So for me, it's not like, well, maybe a Tic Tac is not a ship from Russia. Maybe it's not a ship from China. Maybe it's a real UFO. And since the government's trying to relabel it to take UFO away from the title, to change the UFO to phenomena, meaning it's anything but. And people, I mean, the people in the UFO world are starting to accept that term. I would not. It's changing the title, the actual meaning of what it is into something completely different. You want to watch phenomena, watch Ghostbusting and things like that. That's phenomena. But even that's moving into a deeper point now where they're filming actual entities and creatures and spirits. Now that's phenomena, not a UFO, because a UFO is a real solid ship. Changes its form here and there, but it's driven by a real entity. I don't say human, but what's human mean? We're of planet Earth. We were all brought here, people, and it wasn't by the Anunnaki, and it wasn't by all the stories you hear. All right, I can go into the religious part, but not today. There is a God, but it doesn't come down into the lower realms. It doesn't deal with demons and entities and all this other stuff in this realm and the next, the astral plane, which aliens have no God. They pose as a God. They always did through all of history. And 90% of everything you heard in history is a twisted lie, especially when Zachariah Sitchin came out and said his story about his translation of words. Words are written by man, and man is pretty ignorant when it comes to reality. It's their reality, what they believe in. People say, oh, that's my belief. It's a belief. It's not proof, and it's not an actual entity or a real being within your reality that you deal with. It's your mind, and mind cannot help you experience the truth. You may believe it is and accept that. Aliens are not here to help us in any way, people. They never did. Any time in history, they never helped the human race. And I'm sure you understand how many races came and left this planet. And the government will never say why, how, or what. I mean, you got scientists trying to prove this, that, and the other thing, and they can't prove anything. Ancient aliens has been talking about pyramids for 15 years, and they got the same amount of proof today as they did 15 years ago. Linda Moulton Howe, 40 years involved with cattle mutilation, zero proof of anything today. You know, if I'm going to do research, I want to know and prove it. Linda Moulton Howe was never next to an actual cattle mutilation. I was. Not a cattle, but an animal mutilation 3 times. All right? A friend of mine has videos and pictures of it happening to his horse. It's real, and it's not what we assume, animals eating animals and things like that. But you know, what is Bigfoot? And I'll tell you, it was a being that was brought here the same as the human race were. All right? Are they intelligent? To some degree. Are they vicious? Of course they are. And people say, well, I meet with them and we talk and they teach us. Teach you what? The native people have talked about working with the star beings for a long time. I danced across the United States for over 30 years. I sat with many elders, medicine people, the cream of the crop. I'm talking like Thomas Binyaka, who held the Hopi prophecy. All right. And you don't even want to know what that really is, because it was after he died, 3 people carried the Hopi prophecy, and they're all trying to make it sound good. And it's not. The Tibetan prophecy was equal to the Indian prophecy, because you know why? The same things are happening or happened to them that will and has happened to the native people. I'm not going to get into detail on that. Someday I'll do a whole thing on that, maybe. But right now I'm going to get back to the idea what's happening in the UFO world. I'm a rebel. I'm hardcore. And the only reason why I am, because I'm not a storyteller. I'm not a liar. And I'm not trying to promote anybody else's story except Tina's. I trust her. We've been together for 3 years. And I know what she's going through. She's been in the hospital over and over. The whole UFO thing is affecting her greatly. And the hospital knows it. The government knows it. And none of them is saying a word. They're blocking her from seeing her own information. Read her story. Read what the government's doing to her or didn't do, and everything else that's going on. And I'll say this. Between her and me, we could always have a ship over us any night. But she films them every night. And why are they over her every night? And I tell her over and over, they need her alive. Many people get abducted and never come back. Many people get eaten. I mean, there's many things that happen to people. But in her case, they're keeping her alive because she has her little children on a ship and she can communicate with them. And the aliens have no understanding how and why she can do it. She's radioactive. With the symptoms that she had 2 years ago, she shouldn't be alive right now. I mean, her teeth were falling out, her hair was falling out, her nails were falling off. She fell down, she turned black and blue, she was passing out. All right, all these little things are exact symptoms of radioactive poisoning. But again, the government won't admit that. She went in the hospital and they examine her and they tell her different things every time she goes. They removed a giant mass out of her stomach. What did they tell her? Nothing. They said it was too controversial to even let her see her own video. And then 2 years later, roughly, she was writing to Congress and they said, well, don't worry, it was only a birth control device removed out of her stomach that was this big. Really? All right. You know, when the government releases a story, like John Ford, who's in the nut house in Long Island right now, they said he had a barrel of uranium. Is there anybody in the United States that can get a barrel of uranium? Seriously. I could go on. My friend Sean David Martin was arrested for 150 charges that he didn't do. In court, he was a sovereign citizen. In court, he was not allowed to defend himself, was not allowed to have a lawyer. But there was no witnesses and no documents proving anything they brought against him. And they put him in jail. The time he was in jail, they tortured him. They did all kinds of things. He's out, but he's dying very slowly, trying to survive. But he was one of the top speakers in the UFO world, and nobody in the UFO world really gets involved with people that are being attacked by the government. I can't say I am. I mean, they watch everything I do. They took some things that were really important. I mean, I might have my computer stripped like 3 times. But again, when the government wants you out, you're gone. It's not like Billy Myers came out. He was shot 21 times. But then the worst lie that I heard in the past 2 years came out of Stephen Greer's mouth. Oh, the government offered him $3 billion to walk away from the UFO world. I mean, that's the most delusional, retarded lie I ever heard. Sorry for that word. That's possible because the government has people working for them that take people out. One super famous person I knew, and he confessed in front of 13 people. He took 45 people out for the government. Another person that I did a show with, T.J. Morris, we did for 12 years. Her husband worked for the government. Top secret. All right. Actually, supposedly, and on his dying bed, said he flew a ship for the government. All right. Also had to take out about 139 people for the government. People, they don't pay millions of dollars to take somebody out. They can take it out for nothing. That's their job, these people. So, you know, when Stephen Greer gets on stage and goes on about all the good aliens and everything else he's lying about, telling stories, he's even lying about what happened to him. I knew when I was lecturing with somebody from 96, we worked together for about 6 years. And he was in the background. I had a famous person, Almeen Barton, all right, teaching the John Below Melchizedek teachings. I became friends with her. We were going to open up a spiritual center to teach spiritual truth. But in the interim, everybody got together and everybody was fighting. All right. Nobody wants to deal with somebody else's truth because they got an ego, they got power, or they got money. Now, the truth is important if we want to try to save this planet in any way. But seriously, we got all these other things intervening, stopping us from that happening, and mostly aliens. But the second word underneath aliens, which is almost as dangerous or even more dangerous, is entities and demons. Well, Christians believe in them, but really don't. I mean, we had the Pope hire 1,500 people to do exorcisms. I did exorcisms. It's a real entity that comes into a person, tries to take over and all that. That's real too. But it's separate. They're not aliens. People, there's a difference between an alien and an entity or a demon. An alien is a real bodied creature, just like we are. All right? They're not spiritually aware of in anything, but they have a brain, they breathe, and they eat. So they're human per se, what we consider human. What's the definition of human? Living on planet Earth. All right. But they play God. They have an ability, which we all had at one time, the ability to go through things and change for a short period of time. How an alien could go through a wall and things like that. Now, entities can as well. They go through anything because they don't have a body. They don't travel around in a solid ship either. All right? Solid mean a physical object that you can touch, feel. Now, interdimensional beings don't travel in a spaceship either. So when all these people telling you stories and saying, well, I've been here, I went here with this and them, and it's all programmed by entities. The alien race has been programming the people they abduct and bring back as well. Tina's one of the few people that are aware of what happened. If you go back as far as you want, back to Truman, he said, oh, you can abduct 10,000 people, but they can't be aware of what really happened. When I was young, I was working with people that had missing time. I mean, real young. All right. And one thing I noticed, it all leads back to alien abduction. I'd say 99% of everybody I worked with was taken on a ship when they had missing time. I was in a big court case against the phone company, and they were trying to say I got hurt on a UFO, so they didn't have to pay me. It lasted 2 years, and then they dropped the case. But getting back to the point is what's really happening. I want to get into that. People assume what UFO people talk about is important. Michael Sala was in Hawaii. I debated him, tried catching him whenever I could. He opened up a base here for ships to land and all that kind of stuff. But all he does is attack the government. I say, go back to Australia. Go back to your country. Attack them. They got the biggest army base on the planet there. Deal with that stuff instead of coming to the United States and attacking our government, which 90% of the people in the UFO world do, because you got nothing else to deal with. They don't know what an alien really looks like. They never touched an alien. Stephen Greer went from seeing a UFO to actually being with an alien all of a sudden. You know, everybody that tells a story, if it changes at all, it's a story. It's not real. I know so many people claiming their story, and then a year later, the story is 10 times better. Come back a couple more years later, and it's even better than it was then. Not more real, but a better story. Their word for that in the UFO world is called experiencer. They will not admit that they were programmed, which is when people come back and say, well, I had a great experience. You don't have a great experience on a UFO. If it moves out of our solar system, you're in serious trouble. If it stays up in space past our ozone and everything else, you're still in trouble. And the speeds that they can travel will destroy the body alone. I can go into an incredible story, but I'm not about that. We had 6 scientists that meet with aliens and travel, but they're put in a spacesuit and injected and all kinds of things to get to that point to be able to do that. All right, people that get abducted have no suit of armor, no protection of any kind, and don't go too far into the atmosphere, into our sky, or star system, or whatever. They're programmed. They're torn apart every which way. They take what they want. Aliens need a few things, people. Nothing else. Not our spirituality, like the Pope says he'll teach aliens Christianity. All right? They don't need our love and compassion, and they don't need our friendship. So what do they need? The simplest things they need and have to have is blood, semen, ovaries, and food. That's all. Nothing else we can offer them. Has nothing to do with pyramids and everything else. None of that's going to help us in any way. because aliens destroyed every race that was here. And what they're doing to the human race right now is horrible. What they did to us from the beginning. When Atlantis was destroyed, mankind became massive killers, animal eaters, and all those words. All right. So, where are we going to go with all this? People go to UFO conferences listening to this program and that Project Blue Book, Project this and Project that, and all the programs the government created. People, if you want the truth, you should listen and promote this video to everybody you know. The truth is, they are here for a reason, the same as our government has been working with them for a reason. Sure, in the beginning, Truman made a trade. Weapons for people. And at that point, they were only allowed to abduct a certain amount of people. But just like the whale industry, the dolphin industry, they're only allowed to kill 10,000. Who can count 10,000 in an open field? Can you count 10,000 people dying in a country that you know? Of course not. They would have to have on a fishing boat, they'd have to have somebody on there every trip, everywhere they go. But UFOs, guess what? They travel the planet in incredible speeds. They stop wherever they want. They could abduct as many people as they want. If they give them a program and don't remember anything, nobody knows, not even the people that get abducted. When I was working with abductees, I told you that. Now, I'm going to take it deeper than any of these people in the UFO world have ever or will, because they're hiding from the idea aliens are bad. I mean, we don't want to scare the public. Well, let's not tell them that the world's in trouble, not because the government's fighting with aliens, but because they're attacking us. Now, if you read the title of this show, it's about protection. People have no clue what protection means at a spiritual level, at a psychic level. I mean, at a physical level, you get a gun, you get a bomb-proof house. That's the physical excuse for protection. But even Jesus wasn't protecting people in that way either, which was totally misconstrued. You're not protected. Your body's not protected, and you will die. Period. No matter what you eat, drink, put on, where you go, what you do. You're going to die in 125 years. Period. No excuses. Why 125? Well, I'm not going to go into that, but that's the time frame for people to live max, if they live that long. But getting back to the idea of protection. What is protection? Very few people know about psychic protection. I mean, you go to New Age people and psychic healers and things like that. Burn sage. All right. Do this, do that. Well, guess what? Native people were the first people to do that. And it didn't help them. They talk about working with the star beings, which was the Greys. And during their help, 50 million Native people died. They said they worked with Bigfoot. And still 50 million Native people were killed. How's that possible? Who are you working with? Satan? Sure not Lucifer, and Lucifer ain't Satan, people. But again, aliens aren't here to save us. If they were, imagine what would have happened in Atlantis if they were working with us. We would be the most advanced civilization in the whole universe. Multiverse, not universe. But we're not. We're anything but. We're massive killers, rapists, drug addicts, you name it. Anything but spiritual. And then we got all these so-called spiritualists coming out saying they went through ascension and they're six-dimensional beings and all baloney. If you listen to these people in the UFO world talk about their experiences, they have very little. Except we can go to somebody like Caroline Corey. All right. She claims she can change people's DNA. I'm changing your DNA. I can levitate a piece of paper. She's not saying anything important, but when you play God, you create karma. I learned that at 16. I was a high priest for a couple of years. I had a covenant. I did not do black magic. I learned every aspect of the psychic abilities except 2. There's 32 of them. All right, that they're all real. The only problem is people, They cannot be used in this reality, in this time frame. Nobody can use them wisely and in the benefit of the world and people. When you think you save one person, you could be causing a problem for other people or a civilization. The same as what happened with the Philadelphia Project, all right, became the Montauk Project. What actually happened with that? They changed time, and the person involved, the only person that really went back in time that I was friends with, was given $4 million to go back in time. But he was dying, and he told me he couldn't die until a certain date. I don't know if you know the whole story about it, but you should. He died the month that he said they can come take him out, but he died of a sickness. But the problem is, you're not going to die like, he was mass murdered, or they cover it up. And I'll tell you a short story, which I only got back into remembering yesterday. CERN, CERN. All right, when I was younger, there was 2 CERNs. One was run by the government, and one was run by a private organization. All right. I mean, they just came out and said they're actually talking to aliens. Well, they have been. Way back then, when I was dealing with the president and vice president of CERN, she said people came into her office, injected them, and said there's nothing they can do about it. Well, she went out to the reservation for 2 weeks, came back deathly sick, and said she's not going to survive, and she died a week later. The vice president died 3 months later, and you never heard about the second CERN. All right. So now they're coming out and saying CERN's talking aliens. All right. So what? What are they saying? Nothing important ever came out of a conversation with an alien race. Except Mr. Tesla, who worked with an alien race. People, I know that for a fact. I put my life on the line on that as well. So did Einstein. But he said he worked with them in like a dream state. But when they take you out of your body, it's a dream to you if you don't know what's really happening. Tesla worked with an alien race that actually were here in Montague, New Jersey. He was working with DuPont underground. The most important UFO story, not one person in the UFO world talks about it. I work with somebody, we mentioned it, but they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear what really went down in New Jersey, where Tesla was working with DuPont. What we filmed there, what was alive in this giant army base, it had signs wrapped around it saying, "Do not enter, you will be shot." We went in there every other night for 4 hours a night, filming 1,000 pictures a night of all kind of bizarre things. I'm not going to go into some of the things which I didn't agree with, but most of the creatures and entities we saw, filmed, and felt around us was incredible. We brought a few people there. I mean, even the person I work with, I'm going to say this, I'm not going to prove it in any way, except he kind of split with me, fought with me. We did a show on Carrie Cassidy for 9 months. We showed UFOs every week. And we had about 120 people in our chat room. 1,200 people would get into our site the next morning. But at the end of that, he hated my friend Sean David Martin. And we got into a big fight. And it ended our friendship. Well, in the interim, suddenly he came up with a lot of money, bought a house, cars, and now he's saying he's a disciple of Jesus. Big change from being Sergeant, I'll say it, Sergeant 18, captain of a fleet of UFO ships. All right. Now he's a what? All right, people, we can claim a lot of things. I don't claim to be anything, except I experience a lot of junk in the UFO world, spiritual world, psychic world, good, bad, and indifferent. I overcame all of it, meaning I started doing exorcisms. I learned about protection. Protection of your body, I mean, it's not simple. A book was out telling you about when you go and die and go through the astral plane, how aliens could absorb your soul before you get there. Bringers of the Dawn. Read the book. It's interesting because that was written a long time ago. She started writing books about Earth and the goddess and all that later on. Everybody loses the track that they're on, whether it's through government programming, alien programming, but they can't follow through with the truth. All right. She released it. She said, well, they will abduct your soul when you're leaving if you don't have protection. But what is protection against aliens? I didn't hear one person in the UFO world say anything about that at any level. And they don't talk about it. The most dangerous, most important part of the aliens being here is for abduction, people. Does anybody understand that? They don't talk about that much. Well, I had an experience and they took me around the universe. Yeah, and what'd you come back with? Zero. What proof do you have? Zero. What proof did any of these people have? Well, I got a piece of paper. Really? Well, I had a piece of paper that my person I work with, we got the day before we went to do a UFO conference. It said, this is not a warning. This is not a threat. This is only to advise you to stop and desist what you're doing. You have no right to interfere what's going to happen in the UFO world. Seriously. But this person kind of sold out. And he hates me for no unknown reason. Because, I stand by the truth and I stand by God, under God. The only thing. There's nothing else. No goddess, God, entity, gods, I should say, are going to be the savior for this planet. Deities are real. I call them little gods, but they don't come down to planet Earth. You can meet with them in the astral plane or the other realm. They don't go up into the high realms. The same as the angels all came down. Everybody on the planet works with Michael and Gabriel. 2 angels. There's 9 mentioned in the Bible. Nobody mentions the other ones. And then John writes about multiple hundreds of angels. And nobody talks about other ones, except some people, I channel a being. And so what? Do you remember J.J. Knight? She was the first person to come out to channel something. And she took people's money for a long time and disappeared and came back super powerful again. Community workshops and groups of her teachings around the world. People can be deceived real easy. Tell them something good's going to happen, and they'll follow it. Sadly to say, we're on a downhill cycle. All the prophecies are not good. And when people come out, the world's going to be beautiful. We're going into the golden age. Not for a long, long time, if Earth can make it. I'm not going to go into the future. I don't care, because I'm not going to be here. But people that want to reincarnate, that's their choice as well. But this is hell, people. You got demons, you got entities, you got aliens controlling everything you do. You got a twisted government that are programmed. You got 6 people that run the world. And they got 100 people under them that control everything that exists on this planet. Do you understand that even? Of course not. And that was brought out in the UFO world. You know anything about Denver Airport? What it really is and what's going to happen in the next 6 years? Why do you want to listen to these UFO people? Well, I think a pyramid's good for this, or it can do that. Oh, I think this, I think that, I think this. And they don't have any proof of anything they're saying. Well, this paper says it was a secret program. So what? The government programs were for a reason. I don't hate the government. They don't like poor people. They don't like sick people. And they're not going to help them. But they do get paid by the richest people to protect them. Do you think these underground cities are for you and me? Nobody talks about them. Not one person in politics, government. The UFO world don't talk about it much either. Jesse Ventura did. He exposed it on TV. He took a show away from him. And he left the country. I think he's residing in Mexico. He said, I'd run for president if I have a vice president that he chooses. But again, people are afraid of the truth. And Putin, said things to the president at the time, Mr. Rump, what he did and what's happening and what he wanted Mr. Trump to do. Trump didn't do it. If he becomes president, what's going to happen between him and Putin? I'll tell you what Putin said to him on Russian TV and then to Trump's face. I want you to tell the world what really happened at 9/11. Then he said, I want you to tell the world what you're doing with aliens. At that point, Putin said, we're working with 27 alien races. 2 of them want to destroy the planet. Why would he say that? Because the United States, in the UFO world, a famous, most important speaker in the UFO world at the time, Bob Dean, said we work with 27 alien races when he was top secret clearance. But they're fighting alien races. You don't hear UFO people talking about that either. Because they don't have any information. They don't know anybody that can tell them the truth. I'm a whistleblower. I saw this. I saw that. Well, where's your proof? Well, I stole a piece of paper. Whistleblowers are useless. They come out, what, years after it happens? If somebody is dying, don't you say, hey, look, this person's dying and try to save him? 25 minutes. Well, that guy was dying, but he was being killed by the government. Really? I call them lawless. And I've been challenging people every day, every site, spiritual, religious, or anybody that has any power or claim to power or thinks they're powerful. They have a pair of balls to come and debate me. Debate me on the truth. Why are people here in the first place? Where did we come from? They can tell you how old something is, but they can't tell you how old a human body is. I mean, the original human body. We didn't hatch from this to that. The evolution theory was a complete lie. And you heard the word missing link because there was no connection between cavemen and humans. Ever. A different race. There were 9 races here in the beginning. There are 4 here now. I'm not talking about the races that are coming here. All right. We're in trouble every which way. Aliens don't need us as a friend. All right. To start there. All right. Their technology is thousands of years more advanced than ours. But when they work with Tesla, I can't tell you what race it is because I don't know. All right. But he did. He was given 200 inventions and 50 of the most deadliest weapons, and the most serious, dangerous weapon to this universe and reality is time travel. Now, realize, when these aliens gave it to Mr. Tesla, they were doing it. Well, they didn't invent time travel and suddenly give it to Tesla right away. They gave it to him how much later? So when Tesla gave it to the United States government and they created the Philadelphia experiment, it was being created here. And we screwed up time right from the start. People, do you want the truth? Do you want to listen to stupid stories? Well, the aliens took me to Venus, Jupiter, and then took me beyond the solar system, and I saw a beautiful what? When you leave your body, you can have 10 times better experiences than that as well if you want to. And that's closer to the truth. Understanding who and what you are as a soul, not this body. This body's going to die. And you're not. But you'll probably reincarnate back into another body because you didn't learn how to let go of it. And you didn't understand it. And you never had a clue about a real God either. I studied with the Native people for 30 years. I was on a reservation for a while. I mean, I could go on about their teachings. No religion, no path, except 2 out of 2,000 have any clue about God. And those paths are kind of pulled down because the man controls it. And when you bring a man into reality of control, that's all it is, control. And one of them is called Shab Yoga, and the other one's called Ekankar. And they was classified as a cult, the one Ekankar. But this person went to India and took Shab Yoga and brought it to the United States. But it's learning how to leave your body, which is a must that you have to do. Not remote viewing, which is a danger, and it's a bad thing, and it creates karma. The government's been doing it for a long time. I had a friend that was teaching it for the army and all that. And they stopped it because, people in the army were remote viewing them and realizing what they were doing. It's a horrible thing. Watch Men Who Stare at Goats. It was kind of an offbeat story of what really went down. Men Who Stare at Goats. Clooney was the main actor in that. Watch it. I mean, it's not really as complicated or as important as what really happened. But it's about remote viewing and then psychic attacks on animals and how to use energy and all that. But people, we're beyond that. We should be. We should be understanding what we can do before we leave this planet. If you don't, you won't be leaving this planet. You'll die, go to the Esther plane for a short period of time, and come back. I can go into that. I teach about that. But it has nothing to do with aliens, because aliens are not being able to do that. They're not aware of a God. They're not aware of the important spiritual things, and they're not going to learn it by eating us and using us and taking our body parts and everything else. But you can go to the UFO conference and listen to 25 speakers, 2 or 3 of them all making $20,000 to open their trap to talk about nothing. People that have no actual experience getting paid $20,000 to open their mouth to say something. People from coast to coast. All right? People that talk on and on about what? Nothing? Well, this document was discovered. Well, the government has been working fighting aliens, people. There was 3 major wars in space, and there were 3 major wars on this planet. All right? I saw 2 ships get shot down in Hawaii. I've been filming UFOs all the time. I could go out any night that it's clear, which it's not hardly ever anymore. UFOs about 10 and a half hours. Tina could go out any night from ships over her house. They're going to monitor her. Like I said, there's a reason. And she's not totally aware of everything. I wanted to work with her, but she was supposed to have a hypnotist do it and do it live. But that's when the virus broke out and it was canceled and all that. I'm still trying to get her to do that. I said, I have to be with you on video while it's happening. I need to be there to help protect her. Hypnotists are great at evilness, and they don't even know it. There's a few people, I can't say his name. He claims to be the top hypnotist in the United States. He did like 35,000 people, whatever he says. But he has no clue what's really going on. I'm not going to get into that. But it's a whole thing that's incredibly important. What's happening to the planet is dangerous. And when we bring people in like Mr. Rumpo, it's only going to get worse. But guess what? He's not going to be the main person. UN Agenda -30 is real. It's at phase 5. 5 more phases before 2030, when it's one world order. Half of the world's going to be controlled by AI. Half of the population will be gone. Are you ready for that? Well, I don't care. I don't believe it. Well, everybody comes out with prophecies. Prophecies are useless if they're not proven and stopped. For instance, when 9/11 happened, my friend Sean David Martin was in New York City in front of 300 people and gave the detail of what was going to happen 1 year before it happened. Person I did my UFO stuff with claimed he prophesized it as well, but not in detail. But guess what? Day of 9/11, neither one of them were standing in front of the Trade Center saying, this is going to happen, don't go in there. You make a prophecy. Don't just throw it out there. It's not going to do anything. And when it happens, what did you accomplish? Oh, I prophesized it. So what? If you can't stop something from happening, it's useless. Let's go back in history. Nostradamus. He told the queen that he's going to go out and get stabbed by a javelin. What happened? He goes out there and gets stabbed by a javelin. All right, a prophecy is meant to, going into other religious prophecies like Sodom and Gomorrah. You know anything about the story? Well, if people listen, it's important. And Sodom, Lot had to listen, but his wife didn't. All right, what about Noah's Ark? Noah was given a prophecy, totally has to do something. If he just laid back and said, no, I'm not going to do it, the world would be different. A prophecy is given by an angel for a reason. Not like Billy Myers met with alien races and they gave him 100 prophecies. 90 of them came true. But what good is it? If it doesn't stop something from happening, or we're going to discover this. You can just name anything, and probably it'll be discovered in 10 years, no matter what it is. But here, when you go out into this world, you're facing every kind of entity, negativity form that's out there. What are you going to use for protection? I'm going to try to stick with the topic for a little while. Protection means what? Well, I don't get hurt, right? I don't die. You're going to die. There's no protection that's going to stop you. Go to a psychic healer. What do you want to heal? I want to live forever. Oh, I can't do that. Well, what are you going to heal? Oh, I'll heal your cancer. I'll heal this. I'll heal everything else except that. Well, heal a planet of sickness. They can't do that either. Healers are fake, people. No matter who they are, where they come from. Even Sai Baba, one of the most famous people, did magic tricks to win people to believe and follow him. Even when he died, he was supposed to tell the world when he was coming back. He came down with pneumonia, taken to the hospital, and died. People, you can follow whoever you want. Do whatever you want. Live however you want. But you're not going to find God that way. You're not going to find the truth about death that way. And the average person will not teach you that either. Religions don't teach it, except the two I mentioned. They teach you techniques to get out of your body, at least, which is important. Where you go, what happens, and everything after that's different. Very few people, even in those parts of, they claim a lot of famous people in history were masters of yoga, Shabd yoga, and things like that. But obviously, they were just people. When you travel out of your body, you need to meet a few things. The first thing you need to meet is your guide or angel. We all have them, every one of us. And what happens is, over a lifetime, if you don't ever make connection with them, what do you think they're going to do? You think I'm going to sit here for 10,000 years, lifetime after lifetime, trying to protect you and save your sorry ass while you sit there smoking, drinking, partying? Why should I? The same as, why do people really believe Jesus would come back here? He would be killed, just like almost every other famous person that existed. Even Gandhi was killed. A lot of people. The people in some of these religions were poisoned and lived through it. Only one person I know, super powerful, super spiritual, for a word, lived with the cancer until he died at 80-something. Most of them are killed. Any spiritual person in the old days, do something miracle, you're a demon. If a person can't do what you can do, you're a demon. You're not God. Because there was no God. Do people understand that even? No. The first religion on this planet was Hinduism, and they were worshiping deities. Deities are real, but they're not God. So what do you think aliens worship? Themselves. Control, power. It destroys the consciousness of a person. And then we got, I'm going to name a few people. Deepak Chopra, Eckhart Tolle, the Dalai Lama, the Pope, all claiming this, that, and the other thing. But not one of them could say one thing about a real God. Hinduism doesn't believe in God. Buddhism doesn't believe in God. All right? So Deepak Chopra, Eckhart Tolle, they don't mention God. Deepak Chopra is basically Hindu. Eckhart Tolle is a dreamer. All right? And then Neil Diamond Walsh. I challenged him 10,000 times. I said, grow a pair of balls and debate me. You'd say you talk to God, and you don't say anything important. How's that? You say everything that every other spiritual person says. The same as these people that meet aliens. Yeah, what? What are you going to do? What were you given? Not one person was ever given an artifact. Now I'm going to throw this into the picture as well. John Lennon hated aliens. He said that. He talked about seeing them. He never talked about being abducted. He was abducted. I'm not going to go into the details. A good friend of mine was a drummer with him for a while. Ended up getting John Lennon's ranch when John Lennon was killed. But John Lennon was abducted and was given something. The only person I know in the whole UFO world that was actually given something from an alien. And it was given to a famous person, a famous magician. How it all went down? There was a concert in New York City. They were sitting together, John Lennon and this person. And the person says, well, why don't you go on stage with them? And he goes, I will. But before I go, I want to give you this. Hands him this object. Says, I don't want it. So it was given to me from an alien and went on stage. He was killed a week later. But this person has it in his pocket 24 hours, day and night, from the time he met God gave it to him. All right? Another story that people don't talk about, don't know, or don't want to believe it, don't accept it, whatever the excuse is. I've been trying to get in touch with Ono for a couple years now, but she's I'm not going to say anything about her. I hated it when John Lennon met her. I knew it would destroy the Beatles, which it did. All right. But people, this is about aliens. Do they take rich people? Of course they do. But do they remember? Of course not. Programming is the most dangerous thing because the government does it as well. So you got a choice. You can be programmed by an alien or programmed by the government, both stopping you from realizing the truth. I'm lucky. I can tell you everything that I experienced in my whole life, including being friends with somebody from MJ12. And they control everything, people. They're beyond the president, beyond Congress. And when Congress came out during the UFO comes, we don't take people out. Imagine them saying that. I have 16 friends in the UFO world that were taken out. All right, one of them's in the nut house, still from 1996. The other one's in jail, framed for murder. Horrible thing. And my other friend Sean is dying. They finally let him out of jail, but he's dying. People, you don't see the UFO people helping them, going to him, trying to find out, trying to help him get out of jail, get out of the nut house, or even tell their story. Sean David Morton, and this is a fact, people, the UFO world don't talk about it because he's not alive. I mean, he's not out there speaking. Was the first person to bring groups of people, between 4 and 6 people, on a Thursday night, every second or third Thursday, to Area 51, before it was run over by the government. They watched the UFO mothership come in. All right? And that was surreal. And he did it until they snagged him up there. And they had to buy all that land so nobody could get up on that mountain. And then they got all the security and everything else that came down. But he was the one that did that. Not anybody else claiming, well, all this, that. Well, he did. He brought people there. He was trying to bring a famous person, Montel Williams, there. He goes, I'll come up. I don't believe it. Let's come up on a December 10th or whatever the date was, and I'll take you there. We'll go up there at night. He called and said, well, I can't make it. He said Montel Williams did a show a month later in January. Well, I went to Area 51. It's a small little base. Nothing's going on there. I met the 4-star general. I'm friends with him. And that was it. All right. So, truth is hard to bring out in the UFO world, obviously. And if it's something the government doesn't want you to say, you don't get to say it. People, you don't hear people in the UFO world talking about Phil Snyder anymore, do you? The second most important UFO story to ever happen, with all the proof you could want, well, he committed suicide. He was crazy. No, he wasn't. He had more proof, more physical, solid proof than anybody else in the UFO world. He couldn't have done what happened to his body by himself. He couldn't have been trying to commit suicide to do what happened to his body by himself. And then they said, oh, he committed suicide. And the way he was ridiculous. But he was out there for a few months telling the world what happened. Went into an underground base with the 67 Green Berets, and they were all killed, except him. People, there's the truth out there, and the UFO world doesn't go to it. They'd rather tell stories. Well, the Army's going to do Project Ting Tong or Blue Blue or some stupid name they'll come up with. And it's a stupid name always. People, I've been doing this show for a long time. I don't expect lots of people. I don't care. I'm not here to change the world. I don't claim to be. I don't want to be rich. I could have made a lot of money lying, telling stories like everybody else does. If I tell you my whole story of my life, all right, you would believe I'm crazy. You'd say, well, no, that couldn't happen. That couldn't happen. Mine started when I was 6 years old. I saved my brother from being abducted. All right. That's how it started for me. Not anything I wanted. A couple years later, there was an alien in my house. My friend and I chased it with a bat, and it got in a ship and flew away. So my stories are real to me and to the people I was with. But does that matter? Well, if you don't experience it, it's not going to matter. I wrote a simple manual. How to see a UFO, people. Email me, hawksblood1@aol.com. All right. At that point, if you read it, you'll go out and see a UFO if you want. But always think about when you ask for something, ask why you want it. Why do you want to see a UFO? Do you want to know that they're real? That's the starting point. But people that are saying they want to be abducted. That's like saying, put me in front of a firing line. Why would you want that? Nobody that has been truly abducted has anything good to say or are healthy. Radioactivity is in space. And now that it's coming down here, and I'll tell you how, they're seeing aurora borealis around the planet right now. The sun's going crazy, producing radioactive waves that'll hit the planet. All right. What looks beautiful, always look at the other side of what's beautiful is not. There are two sides of everything, of the coin. Aurora borealis is radioactive waves in the air. When I was young, my brother had a science fair project. He took a little piece of uranium that was on the head of a pin that was shipped to him from the company. And you put it in a glass container. You put a piece of dry ice in there. And it looks like a lightning storm going off inside there. A teeny little microscopic piece on the head of a pin. Imagine what giant pieces of that could do and will do and are doing. Right? Aliens need this planet radioactive. They can't live here until that happens. That's one thing. You don't hear people talking about that. Well, how do I know? I'm not going to go into all the details. I've been around a long time. I dealt with the top UFO people. The ones that were taken out. The ones that had the truth. That were telling the truth. Not the storytellers. Storytellers live forever in the UFO world. Making tons of money. When I found out these people get paid $10,000, $20,000 to be the head speaker at a UFO conference, why? You're going to listen to them, go home. Wow, he told me a great story. Then what? You go to bed and your son's abducted? Abduction is happening everywhere. In the state parks. They don't have to tell how many people get abducted or go missing in a state park anymore, or never did. And the numbers are incredibly high. How many homeless people just disappear? Nobody cares. But the other thing is, people, any army that's fighting a war, when people disappear, guess where a lot of them do go? Aliens have free picking at a war zone. And I could go into great stories about that too. But people don't want to hear the truth. Vietnam, horrible situation. Some of those people saw UFOs and stuff. Oh, they were smoking, they were high, and blah, blah, blah. Well, everybody's high nowadays. Hawaii, 90% of it's always stoned. And more people see UFOs going into the ocean here than anywhere else right now. We got these green orbs going into the ocean. If you talk to anybody on the beach, you'll get them to say, well, I saw a green orb go in there. Just 2 weeks ago, I met a family. I was walking down by the ocean. And I was talking to them, and I said, well, would you mind if I film out here at nighttime? Because I use a laser light in the sky and everything. Oh, no. Well, we just saw a ship. It was over the ocean for about an hour. It went back and forth, and it shot straight out into the sky. I said, did you film it? Oh, no, we just watched it. The whole family stood there and watched it. And that's just one family. And I talk to people like that all the time. I have the whole neighborhood watching the sky now. A friend of mine, very close to me, right here, shot a video. I saw it. What was it? 7 or 8 ships coming out of the ground, shooting up into the sky and going out. He said he stopped. He saw it. He got on the back of his truck, took out his camera, and filmed it. All right. I can go into the stories that everybody here sees. I'd say at least 1 out of 10 people saw a UFO. 1 out of 100 actually saw an alien. I mean, I did work way back up in Wanakee, New Jersey, where there was a street right past that up into Pine Bush, New York, where 100 people would line up there every night, half of them drinking, sitting in a chair, waiting to watch a UFO come out or a ship land or anything. And you could talk to any one of them, and they all saw certain things, and that's why they go there all the time. The government closed the road off completely, so nobody could go there. But people, if you want the truth, you want to listen to storytellers. I did a TV show, and one of the girls that was on it said she had sex with a reptilian, and it was the best sex she ever had. The other one said he was a reptilian, and they said, stick your tongue out. And he goes, I can't do it publicly. And, there's always excuses for a lot of people that tell stories. When we released our photographs, we put them up publicly. A TV show called Strange Universe came on TV, showed some of the stuff that Sargel filmed, and then some of the... I was supposed to be on the show directly. I was only on a couple of seconds here and there. They cut everything I said out. But the show was taken off the air the week later. But the show was actually created by Sean David Martin, and that's the person that I work with hated. I'm not going to go into that whole story. I had to do an exorcism. I had to get involved with a lot of weird stuff during that whole thing. But it's a lot more dangerous than people in the UFO world want to confess or admit. Not what the government's doing. They're saving the planet, people. Russia and the United States are. I'm not going to get into China because they're not. And Germany. It's like when they had this. But Russia, Stalin, and Hitler both were working with Bigfoot. For real. Trying to make super soldiers. The United States made super soldiers in New Jersey. I can go on, but people rather go, oh, aliens are good. They're going to come help us. Help you what? What do you need help doing right now? Paying your bills? Oh, send them to work to pay your bills, okay? Look, people, I really miss Tina being on the show. I wanted to get into a few more things about what really happened to her. But it's not a pleasurable thing. It's not fun, and it will never be fun. And they never helped any race people. No matter what the native people say, oh, they work with Bigfoot, they work with the star beings, and they were slaughtered. They could have gave the native people Tesla's weapon, and they could have taken the white people out before they all got slaughtered. But they didn't. They didn't help the native people. All right? No alien races helps humans. All right? You can believe what you want, listen to who you want, but I put my life on the line. I'm only responsible back to God, nobody else. Tina is one of the few people that I totally trust, and that's why she's on the show with me. I did a show with TJ. We had people coming on all the time. We never got attacked, but we did have a lot of great storytellers. And people believe it. That's fine. You can believe your story you create. But I'm trying to help people. I'm not going to tell you. Unless you write to me, Hawksblood1AOL.com, HAWKSBLOOD1 at AOL.com, will I give you the real truth about protection. You don't want it. You want to go on a ship. You want to be with aliens. You want to travel with them. Mr. Musk wants to go to Mars. He doesn't even know what he's going to see when he gets there. He doesn't even want to know. Tell him to call Laura Eisenhower and talk to her. But people, I'm here to bring the truth out. Anything new, I will tell you. UFOs are in great numbers over us. The problem is most of them are traveling faster than the speed of light. And you can film them. You need a really good camera. I mean, not the best camera, because the best camera is incredibly impossible to understand. Because it shoots millions of pictures in a second. I'm talking about a camera that shoots 30 frames, 200 frames in a second. All right? You can film ships traveling at the speed of light. And if you don't think the government does that, really? You don't think they know what's going on? What they're entailed to fight? Now, if you were going to fight this giant army, you knew you couldn't just take out. You're going to tell, hey, everybody, we're fighting this army. They're going to take us all out sooner or later. Are they going to come out and say that? When 1952, when I was born, all right, the White House was infested with UFO fleets over them twice in a week. And that's when Truman said, hey, we got trouble. All right. And they created MJ-12. But basically, when that happened, everybody saw it. And it wasn't a drone, it wasn't China, and it wasn't Russia. All right, people, the stories are important if you want to know what they are, but I'm sure you'd rather listen to storytellers making it sound good and exciting and all these other words. If you're not excited, you're not going to want to listen. And I know most people can't listen to my show because they're afraid of the truth. They don't want to know they could get abducted easily and nobody can do a thing about it. The government can't protect anybody from abduction. They're taking armies out. There's alien bases all over the planet, and they are fighting with them. But they all don't get reported. Any army base on this planet, there's an alien base near it. I'm telling you that straight out. Picatinny Arsenal was in New Jersey. And it was the first army base in the United States. The worst UFO event or incredible story in the UFO world happened right there. We don't hear much about it. Why? Oh, I'm going to tell them a good story. Well, the government was going to do this. The government was going to. So what? What the government does, is it going to change what you eat today? Is it going to change if you can pay your bill tomorrow? But if your son or your wife or somebody gets abducted and disappears, what are you going to do? Cry? What can you do? Do you know anything? Do you know anything about psychic abilities and psychic powers and all those words? They all exist too. Now, I'm going to give you one clue. Aliens cannot attack spiritual beings. Guess why? The vibration alone will destroy them. If you're watching a movie and you go, well, it's real. But there's very few souls on this planet that have a vibration that high. All right. Second of all, when you get abducted, you are mind programmed. They don't let you go remembering everything, because then the world would be up in arms right now. And they're not. And you're more concerned between Trump and Biden rather than what's really going down. When Trump came out and said, I'm creating a space army, it was the day after he met Putin. And nobody cares. Well, he didn't invent the space army. It was already there, Space Force. People, and you know how much they spend a year and they say we're in poverty? We owe so much money? The ship that they released in the United States cost $40 billion. It should be released this year. You should be able to see it. It's really cool looking. All right. It has every known weapon and unknown weapon on it. It'll make the United States the #1 power. But again, you want lies. You want to hear the stories of this, that, and the other thing that have no help in helping you live life or even thinking about protection. You go to a park, a state park, with your family. Try to find out. There's a couple books out that tell you how many people went missing in which parks, how many the numbers are. The government doesn't have to put a sign up saying 2,000 people went missing the past 6 months or anything like that. But you should be worried about things like that. I mean, families go out and their son, they turn around and their son disappeared. No cliff to fall off of, no dragon standing behind them or nothing like that. The truth is scary. And that's why people don't want to know it. I've been there. I've done it. I'm not going to stay here for a long period of time. I don't want to. But people are trying to hold on to this planet, to this reality. And it's hell, people. Now, before I go, last thing. To be able to experience pain, suffering, and create it is hell. In the other realms, you can't kill people. You can't hurt them. And all those kind of things. You don't have to eat if you don't want, and all those other things too. But this is the only place you can kill somebody, torture somebody, or get hurt and tortured yourself. You know, Dante's Inferno talked about hell. Take everything he said and put it on planet Earth. You could be frozen to death here. You could be burned to death here. Everything he said is here, not in the astral plane, not in any of the realms beyond that, people. So this isn't the best place to stay or think you need to come back over and over or even stay here for a super long time. Because you're going to see, if you stay here 125 years, you're going to see your family die. Parts of them, most of them. With that, people, Tommy Hawksblood here, calling from the Big Island. Not a liar, not a storyteller. I am accountable to God. So if I'm lying to you, I'm lying to God, which I will not do. Not for nobody, not for a penny, not for $1 billion. Well, would I say like Stephen Greer said no to $3 billion? Somebody offered me $1 billion. Would I take it? Sure. Would I go against what I promised? Of course I would. Because if somebody gave me $3 billion to not talk about UFOs anymore, I'd make everybody else in the world talk about it and give them the money to do it. But till then, people, peace, love, compassion, whatever you need in your life. Don't stop. Don't listen to the lies. Find the truth for yourself. Make sure it's real. Don't believe the stories. That's all they are. History, the Bible. 90% of everything in any of that a lie, twisted story. Jesus never said he was God. Ever. I'm aware of all my past lifetimes, which you need to learn for yourself. All right. Till next time. Remember, if you want to ask me a question, talk about anything specific, hawksblood1AOL.com.